Hi. So, this is the after evaluation and case conceptualization for my session that I just did with my client. So, with Paula Ray, what I've noticed is that she is very aware of her trauma and very aware of all of the experiences in her life that have led her to kind of, like seeking treatment and led her to the choices that she's making. And it seems like she has, like I said, a lot of self awareness, which I think is really great. Something else that I noticed is like she feels like the way that she's presenting herself, like as a female in a straight relationship, like it's not something that defines her. Excuse me. She really feels like her trauma defines her and her personality defines her, and like she's crazy and fun and loud and cool and all these things, and getting that validation from external factors seemed, whether or not she put a lot of emphasis on it, the fact that she reaffirmed that it means something to her shows me that it's important, and like not that she has to have validation to survive, because she doesn't strike me as that type of person. But she actually, I take that back. She really wants the validation of commitment with her partner. And she mentioned that, after 7 years, he promised they would get married. And now it's been past 7 years. And her partner doesn't value marriage the same way that she does. So that was really interesting, because it's like there is this level that she needs validation, but it doesn't seem like it's from everyone. Like she just needs it from him. And I wonder if there is some previous experiences with a male father figure in her life, or her actual father. Maybe he didn't provide that for her, and so she's seeking that in somewhere else. I also have a few notes here, so if I'm looking away, that's what that is. Some common themes for Paula, besides, like I mentioned, the trauma, she was really okay with what's happened to her, and not in like a I've come to terms with it way, but it's like, yep, that happened, and that's part of who I am, which I think is really great in some aspects, but in others, that may be a way that she's deflecting, really fully processing it and accepting it and moving forward from it. So that is something I noticed. She's also very involved with her family. I made it really clear that she likes to spend a lot of time with them. They do everything together. Her family is very integrated into her life. And even throughout, she mentioned, like my mom went to therapy, and my mom's mom did shock therapy in like the 50s for anxiety or for something like that. And so she mentioned, that like mental health has been something that's very vocalized in her family, and that it's very normal for her to want to seek care and treatment. So I thought it was really interesting that she has this awareness going into it. So I wonder if I don't know if this is grasping at straws, but maybe she went into her life knowing like something might happen to me, and I'm ready for it if it does, which I don't know if that's a stretch, but it's something interesting that I was thinking about. And then the cause of her trauma, she talked about sexual assault and the physical trauma that came with that. She talked about 2 abortions and an eating disorder, and all of that is very physical and emotional. So I can feel that she might be holding on to some of that internally, and it could potentially be manifesting in other ways. Like she may get sick often, or she may have digestive issues, or she may have memory problems, which all seem to be, based on other research that I've done, very common side effects of PTSD and other types of trauma. So those might be things that she's not aware of or is really aware of, and that we can talk about together later. But knowing all of this, it seems like Paula really wants to continue to work on herself. And I think that's really the first step with a client, is like, how much effort are they willing to put into themselves? And how much effort are they willing to put into this therapeutic relationship? Paula mentioned she's seen therapists all of her life, which I think is really great. I'd be curious to know why she kept therapist hopping. Maybe it was like each time a new trauma happened, she found a new therapist. So I want to know more about that. She also mentioned that she had a therapist who unfortunately passed away during the time of during treatment. And I would imagine that that is incredibly devastating because you invest so much emotionally into this person, and then all of a sudden they're gone, and it's not even like a breakup where you can still get in touch and understand things. Not that I condone that, but that would be probably a better situation than this person's just gone all of a sudden. You're working on things together and planning things together and looking forward to things together, and her therapist passed away. So knowing all of this and knowing what Paula's goals are, I wanted to spend some time talking about what my goals would be for this client relationship. So something that I know I've appreciated in the past is I've had therapists who have been very upfront and very subtle about like, hey, these questions are to help me understand you and help us work together to come up with the treatment plan. And I wish I would have said that when I was doing the informed consent, but I was a little nervous. So I wish I would have said, hey, yes, I'm going to ask you a few questions and get to know you and understand why you're here. But part of me also really wanted to be like, this is for you. So be as open and vulnerable as you can be and as you want to be this early on in our relationship, because this is going to help me understand, what's your point of view and how can we work together? And is this even a good fit for us as people? Because, people could share little tiny nuggets of information, but until you have a better sense of the whole picture, you actually may not be a good fit as a therapist-client relationship, which is something I would want to make sure of, especially given how much she shared initially. And if that therapist wasn't a good fit, that might make her feel really violated and vulnerable. Like, oh my God, I just dumped this all out on the table. And this therapist thinks I'm not a good fit. Like, am I a good fit for any therapist? So that's something I wish I would have done. But I think that a really hopefully achievable goal would be to kind of come up with steps on how to help her cope with trauma and steps on how to recognize triggers. I don't know enough about that myself yet, but hopefully as I get further down the line, I really just want to I'm also someone who believes yes, you can work through your trauma and it not be a part of your everyday life. But as someone who's personally experienced some trauma to a certain degree, there's been years where I've gone without being triggered, and there's one moment, one day, and it's just like, oh my God, it just sends me right back down to that place where it just everything triggers me. So I would really want to work with Paula Ray and, identify hey, what are some things that you feel trigger this experience for you? And how can I help you be prepared? So if, for instance, I don't know, she mentioned her first assault, if she was going out to a party, hey, if you're going to go to another party, what can I help you do so you can breathe through it or walk yourself through it so you don't have to miss out on all these life experiences? So that'd be something I'd want to work on. And then, depending on what she's open to, I know some people really believe in the power of healing through meditation and breath work and physical movement. And if that's something that she's willing to explore, I'd like to explore that with her. Some patients I know kind of give you the flexibility to trial things together. Yes, for instance, I may be an expert in something, but I may be an expert in breath work, just for instance. And Paul is really open to that. I would want to integrate that if that's what works for her. And then I wanted to also spend some time doing some self-reflection on things I wish I could have done better, what I noticed about myself. Oh, I realized I wrote this down, but I didn't say it. Paula's physical being and presence in the video. So Paula, she was sitting very in one place. Her arms were open, her legs weren't crossed, so I could tell she was in open position. And I think part of that is determined by the past experience that she's had with therapy. She seems kind of a let's get this show on the road now that I'm thinking about it. Kind of yeah, I've been here before. Let me just give you my spiel and then we can move on. And that body language seemed open but not super comfortable. Just kind of yeah, I'm here, whatever. She has great hygiene. She spoke very clearly and concisely. She seemed kind of I said, just ready to do it. So maybe that's something I'd want to explore as well. Like, I don't know how I would bring that up or even approach that. She didn't talk too fast, and I know I have a tendency to talk really fast. So it seemed kind of like she was moving at an even pace, so I can move at an even pace too, which maybe the tone should be set by me, but I guess I can learn more about that at a different time. Physically, I think she was very present, very willing to engage, which is always really nice. And then for myself, I know I nod a lot. I do this a lot when I talk to people, and I say, yes. I do a lot of active listening. I also know that I have a tendency to slouch. I don't know if that's an indicator that I'm too comfortable or that I'm just like tired. That I don't quite know. But yeah, so I definitely do that. I also noticed it was really challenging for me to not keep asking questions, like going deeper and deeper into a subject. Part of me feels like the challenge is because I do know Paula. And then this other part is like, I'm a very straightforward person, and I like to get down and into the nitty gritty details, which I realize may not be appropriate for every client. So that would be something I'd have to rein in. I also think in general, it's very hard for me to ask broad and open-ended questions. This is something I've always struggled with. I'm very much like a yes or no person. So what I found is like, if I say, tell me more about that, or, would you mind elaborating a little bit? That tends to be the way that I can make that shift. I don't think I did that very much in this session. So the next time I get the opportunity, I'd like to try that again. But I would definitely want more guidance from anyone on how to ask more open-ended questions. I know I started to ask about her family and be like, oh, family's so important to you. Do you feel like they're accepting of this? I don't actually know if that's appropriate. Something I think I definitely need to learn more about is what is and isn't appropriate, as far as like how far is too far. But that I think that also that comes with time. And I also want to explore her relationship with her partner more. She mentioned a few things about how she loves him and her good outweighs her bad every day, but she is wishing for these milestones and this security. So I'd want to better understand, like, is that, like I said before, related to a father figure? Is that rooted in something? And is her relationship masking some other trauma that she needs to unpack? So that's kind of the base level of, like, I know I have a lot to work on, but I also have more questions that I wish I would have asked. But it's kind of hard to sit down and just be like, I know what I'm doing, and I've never done this before. I also think it would be really beneficial to understand. It's not like, I don't know if I can just straight out the gate be like, hey, so do you have anxiety? Are you depressed? Because I think that would be a little shocking. So I would want to know more about how to ask those types of questions. Like, are you here because like a doctor sent you, or you had an emergency? Like, I don't actually know what that looks like. So I'd be very curious on how to integrate that. But I would say, as far as the case conceptualization, presenting the part about the client and presenting the part about myself, I think as far as the diagnosis goes, I think she definitely has some level of PTSD, some degree. It improved over the years, but I think that there definitely still resides. I know she also has anxiety, and that may be induced or coupled with the PTSD. And the eating disorder as well. I know she mentioned that really briefly. That would have been something I'd like to explore, but I would definitely say that, like, she's very likely that she still has a disordered relationship with eating and food. So yeah, that's pretty much just it. I really enjoyed this exercise. It was really challenging, and I'm curious to understand what if other students ran into similar obstacles, since we're all at different places in our degree. But yeah, thank you.